Have you ever felt completely invisible, even while standing right in front of someone? That's exactly how Sarah Wilson felt every single day at Westbrook Academy, where she worked as a janitor. But what those wealthy mothers didn't know was, you're about to change everything. Stay until the end to witness one of the most satisfying moments of justice you'll ever see. Sarah scrubbed the marble floors of Westbrook Academy's main hallway, her knees aching from hours of labor. The expensive perfume of passing mothers lingered in the air, a stark reminder of the world she could access but never truly belong to. These women walked past her as if she were nothing more than another piece of furniture, their designer heels clicking rhythmically on the freshly cleaned surface. "Can you believe they let just anyone into this school now?" Rebecca Hampton's voice echoed down the corridor. As the unofficial queen of Westbrook's PTA, her opinion carried weight among the elite mothers. "I mean, look at the cleaning staff. They probably can't even afford a decent car, yet their children sit next to ours in class." Sarah kept her head down, invisible to their judging eyes. What Rebecca and her entourage didn't know was that Sarah's son, David, was indeed a student at Westbrook Academy, one of their brightest, in fact. She had taken this humiliating job specifically to afford his tuition, working double shifts and weekends to ensure he received the best education possible. "It dilutes the prestige," another mother agreed. "My husband donates thousands every year to maintain Westbrook standards. We're not paying for charity cases." Sarah's hands trembled slightly, but she continued working methodically. 6 years of enduring these comments had taught her restraint. Her dignity was worth more than a momentary satisfaction of confrontation. Besides, she had made David promise to never reveal that his mother was just the cleaning lady. As the group of women disappeared around the corner, Sarah caught a glimpse of her son walking with his classmates. Tall, handsome, and carrying himself with quiet confidence, David was everything she had sacrificed for. Their eyes met briefly, his filled with a silent apology, hers with unwavering love. Neither acknowledged the other publicly. That evening, when Principal Matthews passed by, he barely nodded at Sarah. The same man who enthusiastically greeted the wealthy parents couldn't be bothered to remember her name, despite her 6 years of service to the school. "Wilson, make sure the East Wing is spotless for tomorrow's committee meeting," he said without looking at her. "The Hamptons and Vanderwells will be attending." Sarah nodded silently, watching him stride away. Little did he know that her son's technological innovations were already worth more than what most of these parents made in a year. But that was a secret she would protect, at least for now. Have you ever been judged based solely on appearances? If you've experienced being treated as invisible despite your worth, comment dignity below. Sometimes a person's true character is only revealed when facing the greatest adversities. Sarah's ancient Toyota sputtered to a stop outside their modest apartment building in the unfashionable part of town. The contrast between Westbrook Academy's manicured grounds and their neighborhood couldn't be more striking. Here, graffiti-decorated walls instead of expensive artwork, and security guards were absent from the poorly lit entrances. She climbed the 4 flights of stairs, ignoring the broken elevator that had been out of service for months. When she opened the door to their apartment, the familiar smell of David's cooking greeted her, a small luxury she cherished. "Mom, you're late again," David said, stirring something that smelled delicious on their second-hand stove. At 19, he was both a full-time student and a secret tech mogul. "You know you don't have to keep doing this. I told you." "I told you," Sarah interrupted, setting down her worn purse, "that we stick to our agreement. Until you graduate, I support us. That's how it works." What Sarah didn't mention was her fear that if David's classmates discovered his wealth, they would treat him differently, not for who he was, but for what he had. She had raised him to value character over currency, substance over status. David sighed but nodded. His mother's stubborn pride was both frustrating and admirable. He served 2 plates of pasta, and they sat at their small kitchen table, a far cry from the marble dining rooms of his classmates. Meanwhile, across town in the exclusive Westchester Estates, Rebecca Hampton hosted her weekly wine gathering. Crystal glasses clinked as the mothers discussed the upcoming charity gala. "It's 5,000 per plate this year," Rebecca announced, proudly, as if the steep price was a personal achievement. "That should keep it exclusive." "Did you hear Morrison Technologies is sending a representative?" one mother mentioned. "Apparently, their young CEO might make an appearance." "The one who made the Forbes 30 under 30 list?" Rebecca perked up. "My husband says he's worth over 50 million now, though nobody seems to know much about him, keeps a low profile." Back in the apartment, David closed his laptop after finalizing a multi-million-dollar deal with investors in Tokyo. His company, operating under a different name to protect his privacy, had revolutionized security software. At school, he was just David Wilson, smart but unremarkable. Online, he was D.W. Morrison, technological wunderkind, and the mysterious founder of Morrison Technologies. "Mom," David said quietly as Sarah washed the dishes, "the annual charity gala is in 2 weeks. The one they never invite maintenance staff to." "I know," Sarah replied, scrubbing harder than necessary. "I'll be cleaning up after it, as usual." David watched his mother's tired movements, the premature lines on her face testament to years of hard work and sacrifice. He made a silent decision. The time for hiding was coming to an end. The Westbrook Academy's spring fundraiser transformed the school gymnasium into an elegant showcase of wealth. Crystal chandeliers had been brought in, hanging impossibly from the high ceiling. White-clothed tables featured centerpieces worth more than Sarah's monthly salary. Sarah moved silently through the crowd, wearing the black uniform that marked her as staff rather than guest. Her job today was to ensure that champagne glasses remained full and spills were promptly cleaned. David had been permitted to attend as a student volunteer, manning the coat check across the room. Rebecca Hampton made her entrance 45 minutes late, fashionable tardiness that ensured all eyes were on her. Her neck and ears glittered with diamonds, but what drew the most attention was the antique ruby brooch fastened to her designer dress. "It's a family heirloom," she announced to the admiring circle that immediately formed around her, "worth more than most people's homes." Her eyes flicked dismissively over Sarah, who was collecting empty glasses nearby. The evening progressed, with speeches about generosity and community, words that rang hollow against the backdrop of conspicuous consumption and social hierarchy. Sarah kept to the shadows, doing her job with quiet efficiency. It happened during the silent auction. Rebecca's shriek cut through the polite murmur of conversation like a knife. "My brooch! My grandmother's brooch is gone!" She stood in the center of the room, finger pointing accusingly at Sarah, who had just finished cleaning near her table. You were hovering around me all evening." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Sarah, whose face drained of color. Principal Matthews rushed over, his politician's smile replaced by a stern frown. "Empty your pockets," he demanded, not bothering to lower his voice. "And your cleaning cart." Sarah stood frozen, humiliation burning through her body. "I didn't take anything." "Then you won't mind proving it," Rebecca snapped, her perfect makeup contorted with rage and disdain. Under the watchful eyes of the wealthy parents, Sarah emptied her pockets, revealing nothing but a tissue and her key card. Principal Matthews, nevertheless, searched through her cleaning supplies, making a show of thoroughness while Rebecca narrated her suspicions to the captivated audience. "I always said we should do more thorough background checks on the maintenance staff," she announced loudly. "Who knows what kind of people we're letting around our children?" From across the room, David watched, his hands clenched into fists, his heart pounding with rage. He took a step forward, ready to defend his mother, when Sarah caught his eye and subtly shook her head. Their agreement held, even now. "Nothing here," Principal Matthews finally declared, sounding almost disappointed. "But the brooch is certainly missing. We'll have to review the security footage." "In the meantime," Rebecca said coldly, "perhaps she should be suspended until we're certain." Principal Matthews nodded in agreement, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder to escort her out, as if she were a criminal rather than a long-time employee. Ms. Wilson, please collect your things. We'll call you once this matter is resolved. And as Sarah was led away, dignity intact but spirit crushed, she heard Rebecca's stage whisper, "This is why these people shouldn't be allowed in our circles." Have you ever been falsely accused of something you didn't do? If you felt the weight of injustice on your shoulders, comment truth below. Share how it felt in that moment and how you handled the situation. David paced the cramped living room of their apartment, his expression thunderous. "This is absolutely unacceptable, Mom. They humiliated you in front of everyone based on nothing but prejudice." Oh, Sarah sat quietly at their kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. "It's not the first time, David, and it probably won't be the last." "That's exactly the problem." David's voice rose with indignation. "You've endured 6 years of disrespect and condescension so I could attend that school. And for what? So they could accuse you of being a thief." Sarah looked up at her son, seeing in him the determination that had gotten them through the hardest times after his father abandoned them. "For your education, David, for your future, and it worked. Look at what you've accomplished." David stopped pacing and sat opposite his mother. At 19, he had already built a technology empire from his bedroom, starting with a security algorithm he developed at 15. Morrison Technologies now employed over 50 people, none of whom had ever met their boss in person. His anonymity had been intentional, protective. "I received a call this afternoon," Sarah continued. "They found Rebecca's brooch caught in the lining of her purse." She smiled bitterly. "They're allowing me to return to work tomorrow." "Did they apologize?" David demanded, already knowing the answer. "Principal Matthews said there had been a misunderstanding." Sarah shrugged. "Rebecca wasn't even on the call." David stood abruptly, a decision crystallizing in his mind. "The annual charity gala is next weekend." This was Westbrook's most exclusive event, a 5,000 per plate dinner where the school's wealthiest parents networked and outbid each other in displays of philanthropy. "I know. I'll be working the kitchen cleanup crew," Sarah replied. "No, you won't." David's voice was calm but firm. "First, you're going to call in sick that day." Sarah frowned. "David, I need that overtime pay." "Trust me, Mom." David pulled out his phone and made a call. "James, it's DW. I need the car for next Saturday evening. Yes, the big one. And I'll need a suit, something unforgettable." After hanging up, he turned to his surprised mother. "I've been invited to represent Morrison Technologies at the gala. They've been trying to get me to attend for months. The school doesn't know who's coming, just that the reclusive founder of a major tech company has purchased a table." "David, what are you planning?" Sarah's voice held a note of worry. "It's time, Mom." David's expression softened. "Time we stopped hiding. Time they learned what real values look like." In her office, Principal Matthews eagerly shared the news with Rebecca and the planning committee. "A major tech company has purchased an entire table. The CEO himself is attending. This could mean a significant donation." Rebecca's eyes gleamed with opportunity. "My husband says Morrison Technologies is the most exciting company in cybersecurity right now. Their founder is supposedly brilliant and single." She twirled a lock of hair. "Perhaps my Ashley should be seated at his table. She's home from Yale that weekend." The committee began rearranging seating charts, positioning their children near the mysterious benefactor, unaware that the young magnate they were so eager to impress had witnessed their cruelty firsthand for years. David spent the week finalizing his plan. His executive team was briefed, contracts were expedited, and a certain donation agreement was drawn up with very specific conditions. As the day approached, even Sarah, who had initially resisted, began to anticipate the reckoning with a sense of nervous excitement. The wheel of justice was about to turn, and for once, it would favor those who truly deserved it. The evening of the Westbrook Academy annual charity gala arrived with perfect spring weather, as if even nature was cooperating with David's plan. The school's front circle was lined with luxury vehicles, Bentleys, Mercedes, and Maseratis disgorging, passengers in formal wear and jewelry that could fund small nations. Inside, the grand hall had been transformed. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, ice sculptures adorned buffet tables, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. Rebecca Hampton held court near the entrance, greeting guests and proudly pointing out her daughter Ashley to eligible bachelors. The Morrison Technologies table remains empty, Principal Matthews fretted, checking his watch. These tech types are notoriously unpredictable. Perhaps he's adopting the fashionable lateness strategy, Rebecca suggested, though her tone conveyed disapproval. I've heard he's quite young, probably lacks proper etiquette. Just then, the buzz of conversation dimmed as heads turned. Toward the entrance, a sleek black limousine had pulled up, longer and more impressive than any other vehicle that evening. The driver, impeccably uniformed, opened the rear door with white-gloved hands. A collective breath was held as a young man stepped out, tall, classically handsome, and dressed in a custom tuxedo that spoke of understated wealth. He paused momentarily on the stairs, allowing everyone to take in his presence. Several parents nudged their daughters forward, smiles plastered on eager faces. Principal Matthews rushed to greet him. "Mr. Morrison, we're so honored to have you join us tonight. I'm Principal Matthews, and this is our PTA president, Mrs. Hampton." Rebecca extended her hand, diamond bracelet catching the light. "Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Morrison. My husband speaks highly of your company's innovations. And this is my daughter, Ashley, who's studying computer science at Yale." The young man smiled politely, but didn't take her hand. Instead, his eyes scanned the room, as if looking for someone. "Thank you for the welcome," he said, his voice carrying an authority that belied his years. "But I believe you've been calling me by the wrong name for a very long time." Confusion clouded their faces. Principal Matthews laughed nervously. "I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison, I don't understand." "My name," he said clearly, "is David Wilson." The name hung in the air, recognition slowly dawning. Rebecca's smile faltered first. "Wilson?" she repeated. As in Sarah Wilson's son," David confirmed. "The janitor you accused of theft last week. The woman you've been mistreating for 6 years." Principal Matthews paled visibly. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake," David interrupted. "I founded Morrison Technologies from our small apartment while my mother cleaned your floors to pay for my tuition. The same mother who taught me that character matters more than wealth, that how you treat people when you think they're beneath you reveals who you truly are." The entire room had gone silent now, every guest hanging on each word. Some looked ashamed, others confused, and a few, like Rebecca, seemed angry at being deceived. "Where is my mother now?" David asked, his gaze challenging Principal Matthews. In the kitchen, I believe," the principal stammered. "Not anymore," David replied, pulling out his phone. "Mom, would you join me, please?" From a side door, Sarah Wilson emerged. She wore a simple but elegant dark blue gown that transformed her completely from the invisible worker they had overlooked for years. David walked across the room and embraced her, then led her back to where Rebecca and Principal Matthews stood frozen. "Allow me to properly introduce you," David said, his voice now carrying to every corner of the silent room. "This is Sarah Wilson, the woman who raised me alone after my father left, who worked 3 jobs to keep me fed, who taught me integrity and perseverance, the woman who was accused of theft in this very room without a shred of evidence, based solely on her economic status." Rebecca's face had turned scarlet. "Now, see here, young man." "No, Mrs. Hampton," David cut her off. "For once you will listen. My mother has been invisible to you and your friends for years. Tonight, you see her. Tonight, you acknowledge her worth. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment when the truth was unexpectedly revealed? If you felt that sweet sensation of justice after a period of difficulty, comment revelation below. The sweetest moments in life often come after the bitterest trials. Chapter 6. Redefining Value. The gala continued in a transformed atmosphere. The string quartet resumed playing, champagne continued flowing, but nothing was the same. Guests congregated in whispered clusters, shooting glances at David and Sarah, who now sat at the center table that had been reserved for Morrison Technologies. Rebecca Hampton had retreated to a corner with her husband, her face still flushed with mortification. Principal Matthews, however, had recovered his professional demeanor and was now hovering attentively around David, laughing too loudly at his comments and repeatedly mentioning the school's technology needs. "Mr. Wilson, David, we would be honored if you'd consider joining our board of trustees," he said, placing a familiar hand on David's shoulder. "Your unique perspective would be invaluable." Several parents who had previously ignored Sarah now approached their table, introducing themselves with uncomfortable smiles and making awkward comments about admiring hard workers. Through it all, Sarah maintained her dignity, accepting apologies with grace, but making no pretense that years of mistreatment could be erased in a single evening. David watched his mother with pride, seeing in her the quiet strength that had shaped his own character. As the dinner concluded, Principal Matthews invited David to say a few words. A hush fell over the crowd as David approached the podium, all eyes now seeing him not as the janitor's son, but as the successful entrepreneur they had hoped to impress. "Thank you, Principal Matthews," David began. "I've been a student at Westbrook Academy for 6 years, though many of you are only truly seeing me for the first time tonight." He paused, allowing the uncomfortable truth to settle. "During those years, I observed how status and wealth determined who was valued and who was invisible." Rebecca shifted in her seat, avoiding eye contact with anyone. "My mother worked here as a janitor to afford my tuition, enduring daily indignities and disrespect. Last week she was publicly accused of theft based on nothing but prejudice. The fact that she was ultimately cleared received no public acknowledgement, no apology." Principal Matthews stared at his shoes, his earlier confidence evaporating. "Tonight, I'm announcing that Morrison Technologies will make a donation to Westbrook Academy," David continued. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd, but he raised his hand. "This donation comes with conditions. First, 20% of Westbrook's student body must be scholarship students from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. Second, all staff, including maintenance and food service workers, must receive living wages with benefits comparable to faculty. Third, the school will implement a comprehensive respect and dignity policy that applies equally to all community members, regardless of their role or status." The room remained silent, absorbing the magnitude of these demands. "And finally," David said, his voice softening as he looked at his mother, "Westbrook will establish the Sarah Wilson Scholarship for single parents continuing their education, administered by my mother, who will be leaving her janitorial position to join the school's administration as Director of Inclusion." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. This part of the plan had been kept from her. "We are not defined by what we own or the positions we hold," David concluded. "We are defined by how we treat others, especially those we think can offer us nothing. In return, my mother taught me that. I hope Westbrook Academy is ready to learn it too." As David stepped away from the podium, the silence broke into applause, tentative at first, then building to resounding recognition. Sarah rose to embrace her son, tears streaming down her face. Later that evening, as they prepared to leave, Rebecca Hampton approached them by the door. Her usual confidence had deserted her, leaving behind a woman who suddenly appeared smaller, less certain. "Sarah, David," she began, struggling with words that didn't come easily to her. "I owe you both an apology. My behavior was inexcusable." Sarah regarded her steadily. "Yes, it was." "I wonder," Rebecca continued, "if you might be willing to meet with me next week to discuss how I might help with the new inclusion initiatives." Sarah considered this for a moment. "Redemption takes time, Rebecca, but it begins with the willingness to change. Tuesday, 10 a.m. at my new office." As they departed in the limousine that had caused such a stir upon arrival, Sarah turned to her son. "You planned all of this for months, didn't you?" David smiled. Justice comes to those who wait, Mom. You taught me that too. Sarah looked back at the school, where she had spent years feeling less than, now transformed into a place where her name would be associated with opportunity and respect. Sometimes, she said quietly, being invisible gives you the clearest view of who people truly are. The limousine pulled away from Westbrook Academy, leaving behind a group of wealthy parents confronting uncomfortable truths about themselves, the value of character over currency, and the power of a mother's love to shape not just a successful businessman, but a human being of true worth. What did you think of this story of triumph and justice? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to receive more inspiring stories like this one. Share in the comments if you've ever experienced or witnessed a similar situation and how it transformed your perspective on people.